Did you hear about the one that got away? You all know how hunters can stretch the truth. Well, in this story, the author displays the perfect example of stretching the truth. Hello, my name is Josiah Crawford, and I'm in the 8th grade at the Pleasant View Baptist School, and today I'll be performing for you Deer on a Bicycle by Patrick McMahon. You know, hunting deer has changed, and it's all different now. When I was a kid, if you wanted to hunt a deer, you just went out and hunted a deer. Nowadays, you gotta punch in computer forms and punch out cardboard deer tags. It takes less paperwork to check into a hospital. Hunting's not so much fun anymore either. When I was young and my family was poor, boy, if I brought home a deer, it was cause for a major celebration. I was treated like a hero. But if I bring home a deer now, all my daughters start screaming and crying, "Dad's enough to bam me!" No, I explained. He was hit by a truck and was lying on the side of the road, and I was rushing him to the vet when he suddenly expired on the front seat of my car. So, we'll hold a short memorial service, then we'll eat him. "No! You cannibal!" they screamed. But it was all different in the olden days. When I was 14, I loved deer hunting more than anything I could think of. I only had 2 problems. I'd never been, and I had no one to take me. Remember, my dad died when I was young, and none of the neighbors, not even Rancid Crabtree, wanted to be around me when I was armed. There were no deer near where I lived, so I decided the only thing for me to do was to ride my bicycle up into the mountains and go deer hunting by myself, and that's exactly what I did. The next morning, I tied the rifle to the handlebars of my bicycle, and I started pumping up into the mountains in quest of my very first deer. After many hours, and as many steep ridges, as I neared the top, I pedaled past a real hunting camp. The hunters, all decked out in red and black checkered coats with 4-wheel drive pickups and big white wall tents, just like the pictures in the outdoor magazines. Well, when the hunters saw me pumping up the mountain to go deer hunting, they thought it was the funniest spectacle ever to come their way, and they started yelling at me, and laughing, and teasing, and carrying on for all they were worth. So I said to myself, "Wait, I'll show you guys. I bet you'll be surprised if I get a deer before you do." So I pumped up the mountain, and just as I crested the last steep ridge, this nice 4-point mule deer buck steps out of the brush and stands there staring at me. I don't know what to do. I'm all nervous, my hands are sweaty. I've never shot anything before. So all at once, I just snap off a quick shot at the deer. He drops like a rock. I'm amazed. It was such a difficult shot too, because I was so startled and all shaky and everything, and my rifle was still tied to the handlebars. I rush over to the deer to check for bullet holes, but I can't find any. I think maybe the deer is faking it. Then I discover a big chip taken out of one of the antlers, and I realize that I hit the deer in the horn so hard that it killed him. So I drag the deer over my bicycle. Then I realize I have another problem. My problem now is how to get the deer home so that my grandmother could dress it for me. I've often noticed that other hunters take their deer home tied to a fender. So I drag the deer over to my bike, and I lift him up and over so that it lays across the rear fender. Its head and front hooves drag on one side, and the rear hooves drag on the other. I know that's not going to work. Guess I'll just have to leave him. Then I remember that I've often carried friends of mine a straddle of the back fender behind me, one leg on either side. So I grab the deer, and I twist it up and around so that it sits a straddle of the back fender, seated comfortably. I tie each of its front hooves to the handlebars, and I wiggle in between its front legs. I've got the deer's head hanging over my shoulder, and I start pumping to the brink of that ridge. It's a lot harder than you might think, riding a bicycle with a deer on it. Well, just as my front wheel starts down the steep grade, I hear this strange sound. It's kind of like I don't know, kind of like a snort. So I turn my head slightly toward the deer's face, and it's blinking its eyes. It panics. First time on a bicycle, I guess. Well, there's nothing I can do about it now, because already we're flying down the mountain, and the deer is snorting and thrashing about, blowing deer slobber all over me. and I'm trying to steer around rocks and out of ruts and over logs. Just then, we passed the hunter's camp. I glance at the hunters, grin, and wave, show off my deer. I can tell they're real surprised to see that I got a deer before they did. The deer and I and the bike continued to fly down the mountain. And then I suddenly realized I made a terrible mistake. I've forgotten to tie on the deer's hind hooves. And while he's thrashing around, he manages to get his hind hooves onto the pedals. Pretty soon, he catches on to pedaling. And he starts to like it. You know how they say nothing runs like a deer? Well, you haven't seen anything until you've seen a deer on a bike. We hit the bottom of the mountain, and I throw myself off and watch as the deer on my bike disappeared over the horizon.